sectional titles are titles for a specific unit. For instance, apartments, like you mentioned before, and also maisonettes. You can have maisonettes and they have sectional titles. So in the past, you'd own a property through leases. So right now, yes, you can do leases that are geo-referenced, and we'll break that down in a bit. Or you can have your own individual title for the property. You see, the way we used to buy, you buy your plot of land and you get your individual title. That's where we are moving to, and that's what we're referring to as sectional title.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's your own title for your unit, but within a larger development.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so the foundation is the Constitution, ownership rights, land ownership rights, and then we have the Land Act, we have the Land Registration Act, and then specifically we have the Sectional Properties Act.
Yeah.
And then we have the regulations that go along with those acts. Yeah, so basically that's the legal framework.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
So if I'm a buyer and I want to invest in such kind of a property, so what should I be looking at?
Okay. So like any other transaction, you would want to first do your due diligence, and then I'd say you start with the pre-contract inquiries. That is, you have to verify that this project actually exists. Don't just be sold something and then, like we see in an advert where you're being told, your property will be here and all that. No, so what you want to do is first, you want to verify that that land exists, that project exists, and most importantly, you want to ensure that you're dealing with legit people.
Yeah.
So most of the times you'll find that if it's apartments or if it's a controlled development, say maisonettes, it will be a company that's doing this project. So you want to engage a lawyer to do searches for you. You can do your own search, but it's good to have a lawyer to do it for you. So you do the company search to confirm that this company actually exists. Who are the directors of this company? Because then they'll be the ones signing the agreement, and you want to ensure that the agreement is legit, it's valid. And then you also want to do a search on the property. So in this case, depending on where the development is, you might do a search on the head title, or what people refer to as the mother title. This is the title for the entire development. Or you might get that the sectional title is already out, so then you'll be doing a search on this particular title. So currently, most of these titles are on Ardhi. They've been verified or they've been converted, so then you'll be doing it on Ardhi. And then that takes us to the next thing that you need to do. You have to register an Ardhi account, so that then you can be able to log in and do the searches or engage your lawyer to do the search. Yeah. So Ardhi is a land management information system that's currently run by the government. So we are moving to a digital lands registry. So as opposed to, we used to have this, the district lands registry or the coast registry and the central registry, we are all moving to a centralized form of registry, and progressively we'll have all titles there. So for now, the titles that are there, the Nairobi titles, and slowly they're onboarding other registries. Yeah, so basically, instead of you going physically to the lands registry and lodging your search, you log into the system, upload the title, fill in whatever information you're required to fill in, pay on the system, and then you're able to get your search. You're able to lodge for everything that you could do on in a physical registry is what now we do on the online registry.
Okay.
Yeah. So you see, for maisonettes, it applies specifically to, say, a controlled development where you have this land and you've built, you've built all these maisonettes, and there are specific specifications as regards the kind of building you're building, and then you also have common areas. Because basically, sectional titles, the key items are that one, you have an individual title to your maisonette, say the title to your maisonette. Also, there's the common property. So you might find that you have the common swimming pool, the common areas, the parking, the walkways, all that. So it doesn't have to go up. Yeah. It can go horizontally. Okay. Yeah, and you still own. So in the past, you'd have the main title, and then you'd have what we call subleases for each unit. Say there are 20 units within that area. So then you'd have long-term leases, which would be like a lesser period than the head title, but now you can still get your own title for this unit.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what's currently happening at the moment. Most people are moving towards owning property in through sectional titles. The reason being that when you own land through a lease, there are various conditions in the lease that you have to abide by. For instance, you can't rent it out without getting consent from the head lessor. You also can't sell the property without getting consent from the management company. You can't charge the property without getting consent from the management company. Also, you're remitting your money to this management company for them to pay your land rates and your land rent if your property falls under those areas where this is charged. So you'd find that you want to get your charge, but then either the management company directors are not cooperating. So then you're stuck than it should. Also, you want your privacy. You don't want everybody in your business. You're getting a mortgage. Everybody knows that you're getting the mortgage. So just that having control of your own unit and what you do with it is the beauty of sectional titles.
Okay.
So not really. There's not a special consideration when you want to take a facility using the sectional title as collateral. It's just that even for lenders, it's a better option. There's more security as regards the sectional title because, it's just you and the bank. And again, in terms of how quickly you can transact it, it's faster. So a bank will not shy away, to just answer her question, a bank will not shy away from giving you a loan because your property is a sectional title. We have to be in compliance with the Sectional Properties Act 2020, and recently there was actually a notice by the PS prohibiting registrars from registering properties or leases that have not been geo-referenced. So if you live in an apartment, you own an apartment, you need to inform your management company to have these properties converted to sectional titles. Yes, there are exemptions. For instance, if it's a mixed-use development, then you don't have to fall under the Sectional Properties Act in terms of georeferencing and getting sectional units. But if it's an apartment, just a block on its own, you need to ensure that the process of converting these leases to sectional titles is done. Because then, this notice was issued, I think, a week or two ago. You can't transact on your property without first converting. And it takes a while. It takes 3 to 5 months. So the earlier you begin, the better. So that you're not caught in a place where you want to sell or you want to get a mortgage and you can't do it because, there's a restriction as regards how you can deal. Actually, this was supposed to be done by December 2022. So you've been seeing advocates on the streets, and just trying to get the lands registry and various stakeholders to extend this time for people to be in compliance with the laws. So now I think the ministry says this is it. Now everybody has to be in compliance with the SPA Act. Yeah. Not at the moment, because it's something. It's a recent act. If it's in court, it's not yet been decided. So not really, not at the moment. Yes, there are issues to do with leases and all that, but for sectional titles, not that I have heard of. Okay, so no, it's not the first act. There was actually another Sectional Properties Act. So the NHC. You see, the NHC houses used to fall under that. It's just that there was not too much uptake as regards that. In my own view, maybe developers and management companies wanted to retain control as regards the properties, but it was there before. It's just that right now, it's like mandatory if you have an apartment to fall under this SPA. In the past, it was optional.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now, if you want to approach a bank like any other title, you can do it, you know. So they would just need, you know, a copy of the title, depending on where the development is.
Okay, a copy of the title.
Yes, the sectional title. Because that's what they'll use as security. If not, you know, there's a sale agreement and maybe the development is in the process of getting these titles, and then there's a standard, you know, you'd have to raise some amount of money, maybe it's 10%, unless the bank is financing 105%. At Mohammed Muigai, we are in most of these panels, you know, so there are banks that finance 105%. Also, there's something that I'd like to mention, and I'm not speaking for the government, but there's the affordable housing loans.
Yeah.
Different from these affordable houses that we see being constructed. So with these loans, if if you are getting a facility for 11.5 million and below, you can get these loans, and the rate is 9.5% for the entire duration of the loan. Because for the commercial loans, it keeps changing. I think at the moment it's at 18%, and it keeps changing based on the CBK lending rate. So then if you're buying property that's 11.5 and below, which most sectional titles fall under, then you can actually approach the bank, because what you're going to repay is actually quite minimal. I'd give an example. I think there's a client I'm doing for a loan for, is it 7.2 million? And their repayment is about 50,000. You see, this
Per
is
month?
per month.
Okay.
That's like rent. Yeah, so don't shy away from going to the banks. They're very much willing to give you the loans. If they need you to raise a 10%, you know, based on each bank's requirements, you might need to raise a 10%, or they might actually give you the entire financing plus even pay for your legal fees, and then you just, you know, pay it as you're paying back your loan. So you have identified the property you want to buy. You have done your pre-contract inquiries that we had discussed before.
Yeah.
You have negotiated through your advocate the terms of the sale agreement. And so it will be clear to the seller that you're actually seeking a facility from the bank to be able to buy this property. So then there'll be a clause in the sale agreement that allows for what we call exchange of undertakings.
Yeah.
An undertaking basically is a promise to pay. So this is issued by an advocate and also by the bank. So they will give the seller this promise to pay, say, telling the seller, give me the completion documents, that's the title, the transfer documents and everything. Once registration is done, that is, the property is registered in your name, and also there's the charge registered against the title. Once that is done, the bank will then pay the developer. So it's already something that already happens. Developers would understand that this is what happens, and it should be provided for in the sale agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you're actually more protected, because in case of anything, the bank is the one that will be going after this seller. Yeah.
So in short, if I can afford to pay like 50,000 per month as like to the bank, but I don't have initial money to pay deposit to the developer, I can still be able to own a property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need to approach to check which banks give 105% financing, and then you approach these banks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know Stanbic gives 105%. Which other bank does? Mostly I've seen transactions from Stanbic. KCB, I'm not sure. I think for them they'd require 10%. Yeah, but Stanbic for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so once these common areas, you own a portion of it, and we refer to it as a fraction.
Yeah.
So for instance, lawyers, we are not maths people, but I'll attempt.
Yeah.
For instance, you're owning a unit, and maybe the square feet of the unit is a certain percentage of the entire property. So let's say you'll be owning 1/200 portion of the common areas. So you actually own these common areas, and in terms of hosting your events there or using them, yes, you have access, again based on the bylaws of the development. Yeah, so you can access, you just need to follow, if they say you need to give notice, just for good order, you need to follow. But yes, you have rights to use these common areas. Yeah, and it's a good question because that's what's actually happening. And like I mentioned before, there's a restriction or there's a notice to stop registering leases unless you've converted. So what do? The first thing is engage your lawyer. Speak to your lawyer, say that I'd like to convert this property. So for them to confirm that it's actually gazetted for conversion, and then you'll also have to engage a surveyor. So there are lawyers that work with a surveyor like ourselves. We have a surveyor that we work with. So then in a nutshell, the process would be a site visit to the property, and then they'll do what is called georeferencing, and then they'll prepare a sectional plan. So this sectional plan will be approved by the homeowners and also approved by the county and the other stakeholders that need to approve it. And then there's also you'll submit your leases, all of them, the head title and the individual leases for the various units, so that then a sectional title is issued. So in a nutshell, that's the what you need to do. In terms of the timelines it takes about 3 to 5 months for this entire process to be completed. So this management, of what we call the board, is elected by the homeowners. Because remember, you're the members of this corporation. So in case there's a conflict, you can then have an election, call for a meeting and have an election and change them. And if that doesn't work, like any other legal issue, you can go to court depending on what right is being infringed upon. I think because it's relatively new, so not so many challenges, but maybe what I can foresee, or what I can think from the top of my head, is maybe the process of doing the conversion itself, because maybe you already have something you want to do with your land, maybe you want to sell, maybe you want to charge, and this has not been done. So maybe that time it takes for you to be in compliance with the laws would be a challenge to you in terms of what you want to do. Another thing is maybe if you're not too tech savvy, because you see it will be on Adesasa, and you need to open an account to pay these land rates by yourself. So maybe you're used to the management company, you just pay your service charge and the management company does the rest. But now with the sectional title, you need to do it by yourself.
Okay.
So maybe those are the challenges. And then like what Dennis said, maybe issues with the management company, though that's not too new, because already at the moment with leases, you'd still face the same challenges. So those are the ones I can think of. So it's like any other purchase you're doing. You want to ensure that you're transacting with a legit person, like we mentioned before, and on legit land, and that you sign a valid contract, and a contract that is fair to both parties, and that the contract provides for good avenues for dispute resolution.
Okay. Yeah. And then there's this, now that we're talking about what to be on the lookout, for especially developers, you'd find that when they're developing a property, they will ask for investors.
Yes.
So in such kind of a situation, do you jump to it like invest? Because ideally, they sell the narrative that when you invest before the unit is done, then we're going to give it to you at a lower value. Yeah. Once it's done, it's going to be probably ×2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we call off-plan purchases. So yes, it's a good form of investment because like they say, and it's true, when you buy when it's still, the development is still under construction, it will be at a fairly lower rate than after development. So it's a good investment to make, but like any other investment, it's not without risks. So what you want to do is you just want to mitigate the risks involved. And one way of doing this is to make sure that that developer you're getting into, you want to purchase from is legit. How long have they been doing this for? Are there issues? You can just do a quick search at the cases, or even on Google. Are there issues with this developer? You've done a search on the directors. Do they have cases in court as regards fraud or anything like that? So you just want to make sure that the developer is legit and they have delivered before on their promise. Yeah. And if you get a property that's charged to a bank, you'll be able to verify this by doing a search on the title. If it's charged to a bank, then you can somewhat have some comfort, because the bank will then be ensuring that they disburse funds according to the milestones of the project.
Yeah.
And then one very key thing you need to do if a property is charged is you have to ensure that the bank account details on the sale agreement, where you're paying, because maybe you'll be paying installments in the course of the project, is that particular bank's account. So if the property is charged, say, to Equity, you don't want to be given an account at another bank.
Yeah.
You want to ensure that this money goes there, so that in case anything happens, you can yourself approach this bank and say, I paid to you, and now they can be able to transfer the title to you. And you not being finding yourself in a position where the bank wants, you've been paying to the developer, but the bank is saying, I've not seen your money, so I'm selling the unit. Yeah, so you need to get an advocate who has experience in this area, because we have different specialities. We have advocates who go to court. We call them litigation advocates or dispute resolution advocates. We have, mostly we call them conveyancing advocates, the ones who deal with real estate matters. So I'd say any advocate can do this work, yes, but you want to engage one who has experience in this area, because you might, a big element of the transaction is negotiating the terms of the sale agreement, which is the foundation document. So depending on the experience of this advocate, they might know, they will know what exactly to look out for, and what are terms that would be in the agreement that are not so important that there's so much back and forth on things that are not fundamental to the transaction. So yes, you want to engage an advocate with experience, and also an advocate who is credible, because like any society, any group of people would have, let me call them quacks. Yeah, because you see, this advocate will be transacting on Ardhisasa on your behalf.
Yeah.
So what if they refuse to do the transfer? And yeah, you'll find yourself stuck with that transaction on their account, and maybe you have paid money to them, they are holding on to the money, so that now then, because maybe the balance in the purchase price is payable once the transaction is completed. So maybe they're holding on to this money, maybe it's earning interest, and then they're frustrating the transaction. So you want to engage a legit advocate, and Mohammed Muigai is one of them.
Okay, yeah, that's a good selling point.
Yes. So the fundamental is just checking if you just search LSK search engine on your Google, it will pop, and then you can key in this advocate's name, and then it will show you whether they have the practicing license. It will show you whether they're active or inactive. So if they have the license to practice for that year, then that's the basic. Secondly, you want to work with referrals, because you wouldn't really know until you wouldn't really know who you're working with. So maybe you work with referrals, and like I mentioned before, you can engage the law firm I have mentioned, among others. Actually, if you just search top lawyers, you'll find them there. Not to say that those mentioned there are not legit.
Okay.
They are, they're very good lawyers who might not be on those lists. And referrals will work well for you. So approach an advocate, ask them whether they can do the work, or they will, or if they can't, then they'll refer you to an advocate who can do it for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see all of us onboarded.
Yeah.
As regards these sectional titles, and everybody having an account on Ardhisasa, because ultimately we'll all be transacting on Ardhisasa. So then, yeah, if you don't have an account, maybe you could open when you want to buy. So, and the beauty about Ardhisasa is, for instance, searches are instant. If the property is already verified on Ardhisasa, it's instant, and just provided the seller approves the search, because they'll get an OTP, and then you get real-time notifications. You get real-time updates on your transaction. So if it moves from, let's say, you've lodged a transfer or a purchase transaction, when stamp duty is assessed, you get a notification. When your advocate pays, you get a notification. So I see all of us on the digital platform where things are more transparent and transactions are more seamless. Yes, there are hiccups here and there, and the system, they keep updating it and changing it based on stakeholder feedback, but we are getting there, and it's good to see.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so I'll give my number. So my number is 07 16 35 25 75. So you can reach me on that. You can also reach me on my email. My email is Sharon at Mohammed Muigai. Mohammed is Mohammed, Muigai, Mugai.com. So that's where you can reach me on, so that we can interact further. And if you have any other questions, you can ask them there. And you can also book an appointment so that we can discuss this further, and I can help you, achieve your investment goals.